We want to create a sense of calm confidence in ourselves so that we can emanate that calmness into the world. And even if we don't have that at all times, we can return to it. We keep returning to it. That is our practice, because returning is the motion of the Tao. Returning is the motion of the Tao, right? We are returning to our authentic, true nature, right? To manifest our destiny. Let's go ahead and get into movement. Since we are in a wood time, the wood is associated with the liver and gallbladder in terms of Chinese medicine, Zangfu, internal organs. And those areas of the body, the sides of the body, so side of the head, neck, shoulder, ribs, side of the legs. And something that the liver and gallbladder like is stretching of tendons and ligaments. So tendons and ligaments, they connect muscles to bones, and they help to articulate our body, okay? So how we articulate, how we find a posture in the world, our tendons and ligaments are really critical to this. So as we find our base posture, this is our default posture with our feet parallel to each other, as we bend our knees, we want to be able to keep the space in all the joints in all of our body. So when we keep the space in all of our joints and all the body, that means we have a lot of choice. We have a lot of choice. So if we lock out, we hyperextend and lock out our knees, for example, I don't have a lot of choice. I've like put all my eggs into the locked knee position, and I don't have a lot of choice. My perspective becomes very small. So even if I straighten my legs, I want to put a little bit of space in there. Even if I straighten my arms, I want to put a little space in there. Okay? So as I breathe as well, so I feel the diaphragm descend and ascend, helping the lungs to fill with air like balloons. So as I'm moving my knees up and down, mapping the knees, the knee line on the centers of the feet, and feeling the centers of my feet right in front of my ankle bone, be consistent so that I'm not shifting my weight, I'm not rocking front and back. I just feel the centers of my feet be very consistent. And then I can feel the descension and ascension of the diaphragm, helping to fill my lungs with air. And I want to imagine breathing from the ribs like a bellows, from the back ribs, filling like a bellows. And then a little attention on the front too. But mostly we are frontal with our attention. So we want to put more attention on the ribs. So we feel the muscles in between every ribs, the intercostal muscles that are connecting rib to rib, expand and then relax and then expand and relax. And we understand that our ribs are three-dimensional. They are a barrel shape around our body. We're not just the front of a body, we're a whole three-dimensional shape. And then we breathe in this way, and we want to send our breath into the deep lungs, the lower third. And then as we use our hands, we can sink the legs a little bit as we spread out the hands, and then use our legs to get above the shoulder line as we get a bit taller without arching the back. Turn the palms down at the top so they point at the highest point, the Bai Hui point here at the top of the head. And then relax the shoulders. Keep the spine spacious and tall. Start to bend the knees and then to the waist. And then from here, just let the arms fully extend down and then rotate the palms. Sink a little bit. Inhale as you raise. Exhale as you sink. And then feel the full length of the arms as you rotate them. Bend the knees. Use the legs to get taller above the shoulder line. And exhale down the front center line, relaxing and lengthening the neck from the base down. From the base down. Good. Keep expanding the breath and sending the breath into the lower third of the lungs. Good. From here, just do some raising up and then going wide. Raising up, going wide. So here I'm staying on the frontal plane. I'm not popping my chest or going behind myself. I'm just staying on the frontal plane of my body. Good. And then I'm going to start my arm swinging, making an X here. Good. From here, I want to have a little bit of belly tone. That belly tone helps stabilize my body so that my teeth aren't chattering, my head is not bobbing. I feel very calm in the torso, and I want to keep the tissues in between my ribs feeling just flexible, hydrated. Good. And then I can go all the way around a couple times and then do a couple times underneath the shoulders. Good. And then go front and back. So you want to feel the consistency in your legs because you're constantly calibrating towards the centers of your feet. Keep your toes long, keep the foot on the ground, right? And so as you're calibrating towards the center of the feet, as you change the planes from this X to front and back, and go big circles, little circles, just underneath the shoulder line, and then switch. So now switch to like this window wipers. And you're still feeling a consistent up and down motion. You're not sashaying your hips or counterbalancing yourself as you're moving around. So as you change these planes, you have your center, your felt center, your physically felt center with you at all times. So you have a stability that's with you at all times, even when your arms are leveraged out. Right? So you have this kind of fluidity here because you keep maintaining and holding to the center. Good. All right. From here, look over your right shoulder and rotate your head. And looking up mostly with your eyes. So try not to just crunch your neck back. We don't like to crunch the neck. Keep the neck long and look up and around. And also, no need to push the head. Let it rotate on the atlas and axis of the top of the spinal column, like a ball being balanced on a pin and just rotating. Okay. So there's no need to push. You can alternate your direction whenever you're ready. And keep the weight distributed evenly in your feet. Because you're in the feet centers and your belly is toned, your dynamic dantian is active and in the center. No matter where your head is moving, your lower body stays as a strong foundation in its own center. Good. From here, step out to a wider stance. And then just imagine a big antenna going up. As you bend at the waist, keep that antenna going up and then out. A little belly tone. Try not to send the buttocks backwards. Okay, keep the tailbone calm. It's not pushing out behind you. Take a couple deep breaths here and feel the breathing lengthen your spine, your upper, middle, and lower back. Keep deepening your breathing. Feel the lengthening of the tissues in the glutes, the hamstrings, the calves, and the feet. And a little belly tone in your dynamic dantian helps to keep the suction quality of your arms on the torso so that your shoulders aren't dropping or feeling like they're separated. They are suctioned onto the torso. And then when you're ready, just put a little space in the knees, bend the knees slightly, and then roll up the spine from the base to the top until the antenna goes vertical. From there, put your attention on your lower dantian and bring in your toes and your heels, toes and heels, until you get here to shoulders width. Good. So it's a good way to move while maintaining in your center. So like say if you wanted to widen your stance, you can go toes and then heels. To shorten, you go toes and heels. So let's go just slightly wider. So from here, we're going to glide from side to side. When you're gliding from side to side, keep both roots in your legs. Both roots are in your legs. Okay, so that means I'm not just displacing weight and forgetting about the leg that has less weight, right? So I don't want to just like put a suitcase down over here beside me and then have to like pick it up again, counterbalancing myself. I'm more like a glider chair, and I want to have the structure of the glider chair be in consistent relationship with gravitational force, to the center of the earth. So that means I want to stabilize this knee so it's not wibbly wobbly. It's looking forward, and I'm only going to move over here where I can feel the center of my foot, and I don't allow my foot to roll to one side, to the side, to the edge, or to the front or the back. I just want to land all of the weight into the center of the foot. And then I want to make a note of that feeling, glide my weight to center. I have two roots at all times. So I have two centers of the feet. Two centers of the feet when my weight is symmetrical, two centers of the feet when I'm one-weighted, I'm asymmetrically weighted. So keep extending this back leg, in other words, so that you feel all the toes on the ground of equal length and conscious awareness. So put your attention in the last three toes. Can you keep the consciousness in the last three toes at all times, no matter where your body is moving along this line? And then just breathe and feel again the intercostal spaces open up here like a fan, like a bellows. So those tissues that are connecting rib to rib, allowing the flexibility of the ribs to move. Good. From here, we're going to slightly turn the torso. And as we turn the torso, we're going to go from low to high. Okay, so we're going to start on one side. We're going to go choose the low position. And then from here, as we go across, we're going to go to a high position. Okay, but don't allow this hip to go backwards. Don't do that. Keep the hip looking forward and keep this knee looking forward as well. So extend the back leg, this leg, in order to turn that way. When you come back towards the center, relax your arms and hands, but stay upright in your spine. Okay, so here. Okay, so it's sort of like shoveling snow. Okay, shoveling snow. You want to feel the extension of your arms, like you got really, really long arms, really long fingers, right? But at the same time, you want this back leg to also feel really long, almost like it goes into the ground. Okay. You want all the toes, the last three toes especially, to have a consciousness, right? And then we're going to go down, kind of rotating vertebrae by vertebrae, so we get a good rotation on our spine. Then we're going to switch sides. So here we're at the same level. Now we're going to go high on the other side. Might feel really different. And you can change the pace. You can experiment with this. I usually recommend that you start slow so that you get your alignment really good. And then you can speed it up and feel the momentum, but don't lose your alignment. Okay, so alignment is more important than the amount of rotation or distance that you're going. Okay, and then here, just vertebrae by vertebrae down a little bit so that I get all of those spinal levels rotating. And then I'm going to go to the other side and go low to high. And go down, vertebrae by vertebrae. Go evenly on the waist level. And then low to high on the other side. Low to high on the other side. And then work your way down. Good. Then when we get here, we're even, we have the double-headed drum. So then you start to understand how you feel that the pumping action of the legs moving up and down are causing the double-headed drum movement. So in other words, I don't need to pull or push my hips for this to happen. So if I turn to the side, I'm not pulling and pushing or sashaying my hips around. I'm just moving up and down with my legs. And because I don't stick my butt out, my hip position stays the same in space, right? So my hip is still active. It's not rigid, but I'm not swaying. So I'm actually a lot more stable and strong because I'm staying in my roots. Good. All right. Okay. So from here, just a little bit of light marching to just open up the hips. But still, when you're doing this light marching, feel the suction like a little hug in your belly, like you're holding a sack of groceries from the bottom. So you have a center. You have a center in your core, in your dynamic dantian, that lightens this feeling of this marching. Good. So as you have this feeling, you can build up this center suspended feeling from lower dantian to the middle dantian in the chest, and then to the top of the head. So you want to feel like you're suspended from the heavens at a single point, and that allows these, especially the hips, shoulders and hips, to relax. So actually when I'm marching, I feel like a prancing horse, right? There's a lightness there. There's a lightness there. Good. And as I'm doing this, you can speed it up a little bit, right? And then start to move one foot in front of the other, just a little bit. So you definitely get this like prancing horse feeling. If this is too fast for you, just slow it down. And also if it's too hard to get your toe off the ground, you can also just kind of feel that position where you can lift the heels by engaging your core. So it's almost like I'm floating up here on this level. And then my heels become very, very light. So in other words, I'm not just going boom, boom, dropping weight from one heel to the other. It's more like I'm suspended from the top, and then my heel activity becomes very light. And then that heel activity can go into this. And then you can slowly change the position with tiny steps. Go symmetrical and then shift position so that the other foot is in the front. You don't need to go really far ahead of you. It can be small, right? So I don't need like a big wide step. I can go small step, and feel it here in the middle, alternate, go middle, alternate in the middle. So you see when you have center with you at all times, you have a lot more freedom of movement while being centered. Good. Okay, then from here, we're going to go side to side. So here, a step behind yourself, and then step normal. Okay? And then you're going to go in front, and then step. So you're going to go back, step, front, step, back, step, front, step, back, step, front, step. You're going to alternate this Okay, you can, you don't have to have like a really wide step. Okay. And then you can just feel the motion, like this barrel rotating around an axis here, like a top-loading washing machine. You feel this steadiness of the central vertical axis allows for this free movement of the barrel around the axis. Okay. And then if you can do whatever you want with your arms, as long as you're moving from the central vertical axis. So you can see, you can get complicated. You get yourself, you can play the drums, right? And then start pivoting. Just anywhere, pivot, but keep your center with you. And then you can mix it up with a little stepping in front, back. You can go backwards. You can go forwards. You can pivot backwards, pivot, pivot sideways. So all of this is the ability to stay in your physical center with this light hug around your core, your dynamic dantian. And then you have all this freedom of expression and movement that can happen. Okay, slow it down. Deep breaths. Good. All right. Good, good, good. Then from there, as we go into a slow, just remember that flexibility and flow that you had. You're just doing something a little bit slower. Spreading the wings. And then down the center. Keeping all of that good space, flexibility, lubrication, respiration, chi flow in the body. Calming the mind, deepening your breath. Good. Bring your feet together and then fold the palms one on top of the other so that the centers of the palms are overlapping. And take 3 deep breaths into the center of your lower dantian, the lower belly. You're just calming, storing the qi. And then when you're ready, you can seal in the qi by massaging the belly down the left and up the right, down your left, up the right 3 times, and then reverse. And warming the hands. And then washing the face with the qi, bathing the deep sensory organs deep inside the brain with this warm golden light. And then diffuse this warm golden light like a mist so that all the cells in the body are nourished. All the cells in the body are nourished. Good. All right. Great to see you this morning. You're welcome to stay on for some questions and response. Stability is the felt response of the combined activity. Balance is a notion, but balance does not mean rigidity. Balance does not mean rigidity. We often think of balance in the West, anyways, in English speaking language and thought, that balance is like a still moment in time that just doesn't change. It just doesn't change ever. Right? Like the scales of the balance, it just stay even and unmoving. But there's lots of ways to balance. So really in a moving meditation, like any Tai Chi, Qigong, all the things that we're doing, what we are cultivating is dynamic balance. It is a balance in motion. It is understanding that we're actually more balanced when we're in motion. So it's a little bit easier to balance when we're moving a little bit than it is when we're still. Right? So if you, for example, do like standing meditation, like the classic standing post Zhangchuan meditation, and you're just standing here, you just start to realize like, oh, how hard it is to just be still. So you have to find the flow and the motion internal to the posture, the externally still posture, the appearance of being still, to find the movement within the stillness. And that is what balances you. Right. So one of the Tai Chi classics principles is stillness within motion, motion within stillness. So if it's something is more overtly external, I'm doing some like form, but I need to find the stillness within the form, the activity of the form. I need to find the stillness and the activity of the form in order to be balanced, or otherwise I do feel chaos. I'm unrooted. And I'm constantly trying to find my balance instead of having my balance with me at all times. And the reverse, if we're doing something more still, seated meditation, standing meditation is the most easy way to experience this, is standing meditation, is how do you stay still while balancing the motion within the form? It's hard to cheat in standing meditation. My teacher always says this is the most difficult. Seated meditation, you can fool yourself into believing a lot of things when you're in seated meditation. You can fall asleep and say that you meditated, and nobody would argue with you, for example. Right? But standing meditation, you can't fall asleep. So that's not an option. Not really. So if you're too rigid, you can't survive it. If you're too flaccid, you fall over. So in standing meditation, it's just very obvious kind of parameters. So it's a very good laboratory for meditation. Centering, centers, is a location, right? Center is a location, centering is an activity. So to find the structure that we have and feel the centers of those structures and to fortify them through your awareness and fluidity. So your hydraulic pressure, in other words, we are mostly made up of water and fluid, right? But those fluids are contained within cavities and vessels. Those vessels and cavities have to maintain their membranous structure, but they are not rigid. They're not like steel pipes. They are able to have a flex that causes a difference in internal pressure, that causes a hydraulic motion in the body. And this is the source of our health and power in our life. So that we can maintain the movement, the motion within the stillness, within our structure. We're not rigid in our structure because we have this understanding that we are keeping the vessels open and the fluid moving through the vessels, but we're not cinching those vessels shut. We're not, just because we're raising our arm or lowering our arm doesn't mean that we just close this valve. So we want to stay a whole being. So we're not dissociating this arm because it's moving around in space. We don't want to just move from here, disconnected from here. So all the source of movement is coming from your dynamic dantian, not your static dantian, right? It's not just a geolocation on your Google Maps. It is created by activity. So that way, this this activity is connected to the whole village of your body and experience, right? There's continuity there. You're a whole being, right? You're not a dismembered being, right? So the association, your neurology, your awareness, your consciousness is there. You're associated physically with the rest of your being. This lowers the labor of these tiny little muscles. So if you can diffuse the work, everybody in the village does a little bit of work, this all of a sudden becomes really easy, less laborious, and sustainable, right? Not sustainable as in like some political belief system. It is sustainable because you can do it a long time, because there's less labor that is just isolated in a singular tiny group. And then the rest being flaccid. Right. So it's not like you have the captain of the ship that lives here in the belly and your dynamic dantian, but it's not like a fat cat that's like lazy on the couch, just like, eating ice cream all day, right? Just so that these laborers can do all the work, right? Eventually that whole system will collapse. That won't work. We want everybody to do a little bit of labor, including the captain of the ship. And this becomes easeful and smooth sailing. Like you can do that a long time. You can lift things and not get injured. If you get injured, you can heal yourself. So all of these things it's like an ecology, like the internal landscape is your ecology that you're creating. Like you're just trying to understand. The mind wants to understand and become aligned energetically, philosophically, with the natural systems that pre-existed our birth. When we are in accord, in accordance with nature's laws and systems that are there before our birth, will be there after our birth, then we struggle less. We're not fighting against nature. We're not fighting against gravitational force. We're not fighting against the fact that we have to breathe, many times in a minute in order to survive, right? And so when we understand and we get into an alignment and an accord with nature, we can coast on that existing energy and understand that we're not alone. We don't have to create life on our own. We're not beginning our life from scratch, like with an empty slate. We come here with something. We are part of something. We're part of an evolution of life, not just human life, but all of life here on Earth. We are a part of. Whether we're conscious of it or not, we're still a part of it. So bringing our consciousness to it, refining our accord and our actions, this gives us, and this is like our longevity practice. This is why it's called a longevity practice. Right? Struggle less, accord more. All right. So there are many patterns and systems, cycles of the seasons, the day-night cycle, the eclipse, right? All of these things in our cosmic world that we can't fully understand with our little minds. Those are we're all a part of it, whether we understand it or not. We're still part of it. So we're small but not insignificant. We each have our destiny to fulfill, right? But it's not the destiny, but is part, right? It's like the warp and the weft of a fabric of the universe. You're a thread in that fabric, right? So you're significant. Your thread is significant. It's also interconnected with all the other threads in the fabric of the cosmos. So we have a responsibility, we have a destiny to manifest, we have a role to play, we have a life to live, we have a legacy, we affect others. This is just universal law, right? So we can sort of get out of our kind of narcissism, our navel gazing of thinking that we have to, of self-importance, and that we have to invent everything on our own, that is so overwhelming. but actually we understand the bigger and bigger perspective of life, our life and life, the bigness of life. So this kind of perspective, it is helpful to cultivate, especially when the energy of the year is like this. It's really big. It's big. It's dragon energy of the year. So last year was rabbit energy, small, mini relationships, right? But dragon is like big celestial time. How long does a dragon live? Long time, we think. So long we don't even know how long it is. So it's like that dragon time can help us, just like even if we don't fully understand the whole perspective, we can still feel that there is something beyond us and it's okay. It's beyond our control and it's okay. It's still moving like a clockwork that we are a part of. Okay, so that's kind of what is abundant this year, is being able to expand our perspective, coasting, surfing with that kind of energy, feeling into it, feeling how it's part of you and you're part of it. So have a great rest of the day. Enjoy the season. Bye, everyone.